The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. The Carthage Water and Electric Plant Board says the City Council's decision to dissolve the board is unlawful. The council had an emergency meeting last Thursday to remove the board members from their positions. The council says the board violated a city ordinance that regulates the authority of the board to create employee positions and assign salaries. Yesterday, the board released a statement saying they believe the decision was unlawful and that they will remain in their positions. You can find more information on the dispute on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Meteorologist Sam Lane joins us with the first look of the weather.
All right, thank you very much, Jalen. It's been a hot one across the 4 states, but of course it's been that way for several days. The only thing on radar is way up in southwestern Nebraska, where there's some storms going on there and also some watches and warnings for northern Nebraska and South Dakota. Nothing like that in our area. Instead, we're looking at mostly fair skies, just a few clouds way out towards the west. And as we go through the evening hours, we're going to see temperatures dropping down through into the 60s by tomorrow morning at around 65 degrees. Looking down the lane, more hot weather on the way, as well as the drought is going to continue. But we do have some weekend storm chances ahead and some summer-like heat. And I'll tell you all about that when we come back in just a bit.
Some folks are still cleaning up after the high winds over the weekend in Joplin. The city's Public Works opened their free trim limb drop-off site this week. It'll be open from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. starting today, going through Friday. It's at 1702 North Schifferdecker Avenue. The city says another option for residents is to bundle limbs and branches to cut 4-foot maximum length and place them on the curb at their trash service day. Fireworks sales began today in Missouri, and they'll start soon in Kansas ahead of the 4th of July. KOAM's Anthony Saviello has some tips about how to make sure you are staying safe when setting off fireworks this year.
America's birthday is coming up, which also means fireworks season. While these displays may bring joy and amusement, they can also bring harm.
Well, first off, they need to make sure that they're shooting their fireworks in a safe area, make sure they're a safe distance away from home, vehicles, structures, things of that nature.
So, how do you keep fireworks from, well, starting a fire?
I would make sure that if they're going to be shooting in a grass area, to wet it down with water prior to shooting the fireworks, and then put something down that's a hard surface to shoot the fireworks on in that area as well, and then also wet that down.
And what recommendations do the retailers have?
It's really important to wear safety glasses, goggles, make sure that we're putting out the cake after we're done with water. Even sparklers, I think that they can be dangerous if they're still lit. If your child has it, dunk it in a bucket of water just to keep that in mind.
So, now that we have our information, it's time to put it to the test. So we're back at the KOAM news station. We have our bucket here of water filled up and ready to use in case of emergency. Right here I have some cinder blocks where we will place a firework cake in between so that way it can stay secure. We'll also use our water to wet down our area so that way in case of emergency we can be prepared. So we've made sure that the area that we're detonating our fireworks is completely wet. And right now I also have a punk because it's safer to use these than an actual handheld lighter. And by the recommendation of the fireworks store, I got myself some safety glasses here. So we're gonna set this down, we're gonna slide off this, and we're gonna get to a safe distance and watch these things go. So now that we've detonated our fireworks, we're gonna let it sit and cool. Then we're gonna properly dispose of it into our bucket of water, and we're gonna light off some more. So this 4th of July, make sure to stay safe and stay responsible. Reporting outside KOAM news station, I'm Anthony Saviello, KOAM News.
You can find more safety tips on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com or by downloading the KOAM News app. You can also read the fireworks ordinances for Joplin and Pittsburgh. An Arkansas judge strikes down the state's ban on gender-affirming care for transgender minors. The judge ruled it was unconstitutional, and it's the first ruling to overturn such a prohibition as a growing number of Republican-led states adopt similar restrictions. U.S. District Judge Jay Moody issues a permanent injunction against the Arkansas law, which would have prohibited doctors from providing gender-affirming hormone treatment, puberty blocker, or surgery to anyone under 18. A constitutional amendment to restore abortion rights in Missouri will move forward. A judge today broke a standoff between two Republican officials that had halted the process. The judge ordered Attorney General Andrew Bailey to approve fellow Republican Auditor Scott Fitzpatrick's estimated $51,000 price tag on the proposal within 24 hours. Bailey argued it would cost the state as much as 1 million times more than the figure because of lost Medicaid funding or lost revenue that wouldn't be collected from people who otherwise would be born. If approved by voters, the proposal would enshrine the Constitution, the individual right to make decisions about abortion, childbirth, and birth control. Kansas officials have agreed not to enforce a new restriction on medication abortions. It'll last at least 5 weeks before a state court judge decides whether to put it on hold until he decides a lawsuit challenging it and other existing rules. For now, providers won't have to tell patients that they can stop a medication abortion using a regimen that providers and major medical groups consider unproven or potentially dangerous. The new rule was set to take effect July 1st. The search for a missing submersible carrying 5 passengers ramped up today. Multiple countries are now assisting the U.S. Coast Guard with the mission. Fox News correspondent Molly Line has more.
I would tell you it's a unique operation. It's a challenging operation.
The U.S. Coast Guard and Canadian forces expanded their search for a missing submersible and its passengers Tuesday. The Titan sub was on its way to tour wreckage from the Titanic on Sunday when it lost contact 900 miles off the coast of Cape Cod. Crews now focusing search efforts on deeper waters.
Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-meter pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability. They have rendezvoused with the vessel Polar Prince and commenced an ROV dive at the last known of the position of the Titan and the approximate position of the Titanic wreck.
The sub, operated by OceanGate, disappeared in open waters at a potential depth of roughly 13,000 feet. The company's CEO, as well as a British billionaire, a French mariner, and members of a prominent Pakistani business family are among those on board. Officials now racing against time to find them.
They've got a limited period of oxygen on board, which is going to run out on Thursday morning, it seems like, at the latest.
The mission involves multiple aircraft, submarines, and sonar buoys. On Tuesday, France announced plans to send a deep-sea diving vessel and robot to aid the search. Experts say it could be challenging to find equipment capable of traveling that far below the surface.
You need to have very precise sonar, which that's a specialization that our nuclear submarines don't necessarily have for their mission.
By Tuesday morning, crews say they searched 10,000 square miles. In Boston, Molly Line, Fox News.
Again, that was submersible. Coming up, how a shortage of common cancer drugs is impacting how doctors are treating patients. Common cancer drugs are running short, forcing doctors to make tough decisions about treating patients. The shortage is mostly because of supply chain issues. Fox News multimedia reporter Austin Westfall is in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he spoke to a doctor and a cancer patient about the problem.
Doctors say that this is not the first chemo shortage that they've dealt with, but it might be one of the tougher ones they've dealt with. They say that there are 2 main drugs of concern.
Some facilities in the United States, we understand, actually have no carboplatin or cisplatin available.
Carboplatin and cisplatin are 2 of the most common chemotherapy medications, and the drugs treat many types of cancer like lung and testicular cancer. But right now, not every patient has easy access to them.
I was worried because I didn't want this to be prolonged.
Gail Lass needed carboplatin for stage 2 lung cancer treatment, but her doctor didn't have any and wasn't sure if he'd be able to find it elsewhere. Eventually, her doctor arranged for her to get the chemo at a nearby hospital.
Usually one of us can get the drug, but it's just become more of a challenge.
For now, Dr. Justin Favero says the drugs are being given to people with stage 1, 2, or 3 cancer. That's because treatment aims to cure the cancer in those stages. Stage 4 is when other treatment options are considered.
In stage 4 patients where they're not necessarily curable, a small change of one drug or one regimen to another wouldn't necessarily shorten their lifespan. It would just be not necessarily the ideal treatment that we would typically use.
It's going to get worse, I think, before it gets better.
A survey of 27 U.S. cancer centers shows that 93% have reported a shortage of carboplatin, and 70% have reported a shortage of cisplatin.
The current estimates are that up to 500,000 cancer patients per year could be affected by the shortage of these two agents.
Dr. Carlson says it's tough to know exactly when conditions will improve, but in the meantime, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration says that they're working with a Chinese drug manufacturer in order to boost the supplies for the time being. In Charlotte, Austin Westfall, Fox News.
Acupuncture and a drug called doxylamine paradoxine can help pregnant women with moderate to severe nausea. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine finds either treatment is effective, but the combination of the two work the best. Researchers also say using just acupuncture alone is an attractive option for women who are hesitant to use drug treatments when pregnant. New research in Australia finds low-dose aspirin is associated with a 20% increased risk of anemia in older adults. Doctors recommend that seniors taking aspirin monitor their blood iron levels. Millions of people take low-dose aspirin daily to prevent heart issues. Sam is next with a complete look at the forecast, and later, Webb City Schools host a football camp for junior high and elementary students to work on their skills. We'll check it out in sports.
Well, it was very summer-like out there, even though summer officially starts tomorrow. We've been getting a head start with all this warm air in place, including Seneca, Missouri, with Indico Sky Casino and Resort. Beautiful evening shaping up down there, lots of clear skies. Seeing Venus and the crescent moon in the western sky tonight. We made it up to 90 degrees once again in Joplin, starting out at 66, which was a hair below normal, but we made up for it on the average high of being 87, so we were 3 degrees above that. We're behind though on the month as far as rainfall goes, still about ½ an inch below and 6 2/3 below for the year. And that's on top of being dry last year. So we're still in the drought situation. Summer starts tomorrow, and of course that means the northern hemisphere is tilting towards the sun, and it's going to be reaching the highest position in the sky, the sun will. And so some shorter days are going to start coming. But tomorrow's going to be the longest day with 14 hours and 43 minutes of daylight, and it will officially arrive at 9:57 tomorrow morning. So summer is starting across the area, and right now it's dry across the entire region. There are some storms up in southwestern Nebraska, but guess what? Those aren't heading our direction. They're heading up towards the north, up into central Nebraska. Instead, we're looking at temperatures tonight pretty mild and comfortable in the 70s and 80s, 80 in Anderson, 83 still at this hour down in Grove, where they're picking up from the storm damage still. Night 83 in Neodesha as well in Independence, but it's down to 77 degrees up in Iola. When you factor in the dew point, this is what the heat index feels like right now. It feels like 85 in Independence and 87 right now still at this hour in Nowata. Rain chances are going to be slow to none across the area, or low to none over the next 36 hours. Maybe an isolated storm or two, but that will mainly be out towards the west in our western counties. You can see that on our future track forecast. Temperatures tonight are going to be in the 60s with southeasterly winds. Then tomorrow, again, there might be a storm or two way out towards the west, but everyone else will remain dry with highs in the lower 90s across the region. And then as we go into Thursday morning, lows will still be mild, generally 60s with a few clouds here and there. And then as we head through Thursday afternoon, we're going to see maybe some isolated storms off towards the east with highs in the upper 80s to right around 90 degrees. And then Friday morning, you guessed it, more of the same, partly cloudy skies with lows in the 60s. And it's all because of this ridge of high pressure that is sitting over the central plains, keeping the storminess to the east and to the west, with us sandwiched in between. Now this low is going to try to make its way towards the west, but it's going to have a difficult time doing that. And instead, this high is going to build back in and push it out of the way. But at least when we go into the weekend, we're going to get into a northwest flow pattern. And when we do that, we start to see chances of rain increase because of storms that develop late in the evening and roll across our area in the early morning hours. And so that's why we're thinking the weekend we might see some storm chances across the area. And with those storms, some of the storms could put down maybe a tenth or so in some isolated areas. That's what we're thinking right now. So the storms are going to be very few and far between. Here's the next 7-day forecast. Dry all the way through to about Friday, when we might have an isolated storm with a high of 89. Better chance of storms, I think, Jalen, on Saturday night into Sunday morning. And then it turns dry again on Monday and Tuesday, and the temperatures start going up and up and up.
Whenever we hear the word dry, especially over the last year, kind of shudder a little bit, like, oh,
no,
not
yeah,
again.
It just keeps hanging on.
All right, well, thank you, Sam. Coming up, we'll have tips about what you can do if your summer flights get canceled or delayed. Workers are starting to see their hours be reduced as companies hire more employees. The Labor Department reports the average number of weekly work hours for employees in the private sector fell to 34.3 in May, which is below a peak of 35 hours in January of 2021. Meanwhile, payrolls increased by 339,000 in the month of May from the previous year. Airlines are bouncing back after severe storms wreaked havoc on the flights during the busy Father's Day and Juneteenth weekend. And one travel expert cautions that more significant disruptions could be looming as millions of Americans prepare to hit the skies this summer. Reporter Patrick Cornell has some tips if your flight is delayed or canceled.
Airlines are recovering this week after weekend storms caused extensive delays and cancellations across the country, and travel experts say more disruptions are on the horizon as summer travel ramps up.
Airlines have not been holding themselves in glory over the past few years.
With this increased demand this summer, air travel disruptions are likely to become more frequent. So what can you do when dealing with delays and cancellations?
When you get that schedule change notification, don't view it as a negative. View it as an opportunity to get switched to a better flight without having to pay anything out of pocket.
Travel expert Scott Keyes recommends requesting compensation. In certain circumstances, if your flight is canceled or delayed for a significant amount of time, you may be entitled to compensation. Check your airline's policies. 2, you can request a rebooking. If your flight is canceled, some airlines can rebook your flight at no additional charge or give you a refund for the unused portion of your ticket.
They would prefer you didn't take that refund, and so instead what they typically are willing to do is to switch you to any other flight.
3, you have the right to information. Airlines should provide you with timely updates and alternative options. And 4, consider requesting a reimbursement. If your flight is significantly affected, airlines can sometimes reimburse you for meals, transportation, and hotel accommodation. For Consumer Watch, I'm Patrick Cornell.
Up next, we'll learn about a case of adoption in the animal kingdom between two birds of prey. A baby red-tailed hawk was spotted in a bald eagle's nest in the Bay Area of California, being cared for by a pair of eagles last month. A photographer captured the incredible moment that the eagle brought the hawklet into its nest, likely as prey. Then, a Sacramento-based professional wildlife photographer began making weekly trips to the nest, capturing how the bald eagles appear to be feeding and caring for the hawklet along with their own eaglet. 30 more minutes of news, weather, and sports coming your way. How Pittsburgh businesses took part in today's 620 Day celebrations. Plus, the Langston Hughes Historical Society hosts a presentation about the now demolished Joplin home the famed poet was born in. It's party time in Pittsburgh. The community today celebrated 620 Day as the area code and the date. One of the main attractions was a block party in the area of 2nd and Broadway. It included food, music, vendors, a car show, and more along the street and inside the Pritchett Pavilion.
It's 620 Day. It's June 20th, and today in Pittsburgh we are celebrating with lots of deals and specials and activities throughout the day at local businesses, and we are ending and capping off the day with a downtown block party.
Officials say the purpose of the event is to cultivate pride and celebrate the Pittsburgh community. Several Pittsburgh businesses got in on the celebration. KOAM's Fernanda Silva has the story.
Christina O'Burley is already familiar with 620. But this year, working on the event is different for her.
We just opened our downtown building at the end of August last year, and instead of doing our food truck tonight, we wanted to touch on the storefront and what we've done here in Pittsburgh and the uniqueness we've brought to the town.
Besides the opportunity to bring in customers, 620 is also a way for businesses to give back to the community.
I just like to do anything that I can reach out to our community and help out in any way. You know, it's important being part of the downtown.
The downtown is growing and growing and growing, and the city and the community support is, you can't even put any words to it.
More than 15 businesses joined the celebration. Pittsburgh stores offered deals to residents and visitors. from 20% off to buy one, get one half off. O'Burley chose to price items at a certain rate. You guessed it, $6.20.
Special price today, $6.76. To give people the opportunity to try something they might not try at full price. For instance, acai. It's one of those items that people aren't sure if they want. They don't necessarily want to spend $10 to get one.
Inspired by other cities across the country, Pittsburgh found an opportunity to encourage shopping local, especially during the summer.
For our downtown retailers and for our local businesses, summer is a little bit of a slow time in Pittsburgh. And so we want to encourage folks to shop local and support local businesses. And we use 620, our area code, as kind of a rallying point to get everybody to participate.
In Pittsburgh, Fernanda Silva, KOAM News.
Clara says that the day for her is also a way to recognize how the community has grown. The Langston Hughes Cultural Society today gave people a lesson on the famed poet's ties to Joplin. The society hosted a presentation by historian Bill Martin, who was researching the site of a now demolished Joplin home that the Hughes family and that Hughes himself was born in 1901. The site was demolished in the 1950s, but still holds cultural significance to the city.
The connection with the Kansas Historical Society and everyone else that's done research never came to Joplin. And I made the connection. If you Google Joplin Moe, you'll bring up Carrie Hughes, and she tells the stories. So that's what I'm doing tonight.
Tomorrow, a team of archaeologists from Missouri Southern will conduct a geophysical survey at the site to search for clues about the home. Turnaround Ranch in Joplin today unveiled its newest addition, the Hope Cottage. It took 13 months to build. Officials say it's one of the most sleek and modern residential treatment facilities for children in Missouri. Hope Cottage resembles a single-family home and is meant to provide a safe and comfortable place to live for kids ages 13 to 18. Each resident has their own bedroom along with individual use bathrooms.
Is for our kids to be able to live in a less restricted environment, a home environment. And so we want to build an environment that looks very similar to that. So single occupancy rooms, the access of many different amenities that we would have in our own homes. And so having that is able to help them kind of get used to that idea of going back home and to being in that environment.
2 additional cottages are planned, one this year and another next year. We're now getting photos of the process involved in the handling of hundreds of suspicious letters found in Kansas with white powder in them. Republican Representative Tori Mary Blue from Barton County, Kansas shared these photos of the letters she received. She also shared photos of the law enforcement response. This comes after someone sent mail containing a suspicious white powder to several Kansas state lawmakers and other public officials. The KBI says more than 100 letters containing the powder have been reported. Preliminary testing on the letters show they do not contain common biological agents of concern. Federal prosecutors charging the president's son, Hunter Biden, with 2 misdemeanor tax offenses and a felony firearm charge. Under investigation since 2018, Hunter is expected to accept a plea deal when he goes before a judge. Critics say this shines a spotlight on 2 tiers of justice. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard has more from Washington.
The president's son, Hunter Biden, has reached a plea deal with the Justice Department after a lengthy investigation. Republicans now say Biden is getting special treatment. Following a 5-year investigation, the president's son cutting a deal to plead guilty to 2 federal misdemeanor tax offenses and agreeing to probation on a felony firearm charge, likely sparing Hunter Biden from serving time behind bars. According to court documents, Biden received more than $1.5 million in 2017 and 2018. He owed $100,000 in federal income taxes each year, but didn't pay. The gun charge states Biden illegally possessed a firearm as a drug user in October of 2018. Sources say he lied on a federal form when he checked no to using illegal drugs when purchasing a gun. President Biden has repeatedly backed his son.
I'm very proud of my son.
It's a brazen move, and it certainly gets the president off the hook when it comes to, having to pardon his son if he faced any jail time.
Still, many Republicans feel the deal only amounts to a slap on the wrist, pointing to what they say are two tiers of justice, as former President Trump faces 37 federal counts for his handling of classified documents.
How can Hunter Biden plead guilty, no jail time, and the DOJ say there's still an investigation, try to withhold information to the House? That's unacceptable and will not stand.
Despite the plea deal, the DOJ says the investigation does remain ongoing in case any new information surfaces. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
A bit later, weighing the pros and cons.
As the president huddles with tech experts to talk about artificial intelligence, Congress is trying to understand the emerging technology. I'm Mallory Rivera in Washington with that story coming up.
Well, the calendar says summer starts tomorrow, but it's actually been going on for a while as we've been in a drought and warm temperatures for quite some time, and it looks like it's going to continue for a little bit longer. Let's take a look outside right now at Seneca, Missouri, Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, and in the sky you can see the crescent moon there and Venus just a little bit off the screen there, but a beautiful evening shaping up across the 4 states. We made it up to 90 degrees today, which was above the normals of 87, a little bit below on the low at 66 degrees, and we're still below on the rainfall. For the month, about ½ an inch and about 6 3/4 for the year. So we definitely need some more rainfall to help us out. But summer is definitely going to be starting tomorrow officially in the morning, and that's because the Earth's hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, is going to be facing towards the sun, and the sun will reach its highest point in the sky, and thereafter the days will start to get a little bit shorter. Tomorrow, though, we're going to have about 14 hours and 43 minutes of day sunshine, and 9:57 is when summer officially begins. All right, let's take a look at the radar. You can see some storms way up to the north and west, but unfortunately, guess where they're headed? They're moving away from us. They're moving up towards the north. Nothing really in our area, and it's going to be that way for a little bit longer. Temperatures this evening are very pleasant, though, generally in the upper 70s to right around 80 degrees right now. Check out Neodesha. They're still sitting at 83. Meanwhile, it's a little bit cooler in Neosho with 79, and cooler still over in Monette with 77. But when you factor in the humidity and the dew point, it feels like it's 88 still in Nowata, 83 in Jay, also 83 up the road for our friends in Stockton. Rain chances are going to be a big old goose egg pretty much for the next 36 hours, or very, very low, maybe an isolated storm or two, but don't get your hopes up. But if you live out towards the west, you might see a better chance of showers, as tonight we're going to see lows in the 60s with those storms way out towards the west. And like I said, tomorrow there might be an isolated storm way out to the west, but most areas will remain dry with highs again in the lower 90s. And then as we go into Thursday morning, we'll see temperatures again in the mid to upper 60s with a few clouds around. And then Thursday afternoon, maybe an isolated storm or two, especially to the east from, let's say, Osceola down to Greenfield to Cassville and points eastward with highs around 90 degrees once again. Then as we go into Friday morning, partly cloudy skies and lows in the mid to upper 60s across the region. And it's all because of this ridge of high pressure that is sitting over the Central Plains, and it's blocking any precipitation in our area. Big storm on the East Coast, also on the West Coast, and we're stuck in the middle under high and dry conditions. This low is going to try to move back towards the west, and that may introduce those showers, like I said, on Thursday afternoon. But we're going to have to wait till the weekend before the ridge starts to become more northwesterly. And as it does so, that's going to introduce the chances of showers and storms, especially late at night and in the early morning hours as we go into the weekend. Rain with that is going to be sparse, generally a tenth or less across the area until Sunday evening. Maybe some heavier amounts in some of the heavier storms. Over the next 7 days, it's going to be pretty warm and dry, especially for the next couple of days. Then maybe some storms come in on Saturday night and early Sunday morning, and then it dries out again Monday and Tuesday, and then maybe some more storms on Wednesday and Thursday. But look at those temperatures. They're going up and up and up all the way to 96 by next Friday. So summer is here.
Are we surprised that the temps in our area are going up?
Really.
How many days last year did we have temps above?
Oh gosh, I've chosen to forget that.
You're right. Let's move on. All right, thank you, Sam. Coming up in sports, the Joplin Outlaws try to snap a losing streak while playing a doubleheader. Plus, Webb City football hosts a youth camp where kids get to learn from an NFL player. KOAM Sports Director John Dales has those stories and more next.
Being an offensive lineman is a thankless job. You put in a lot of work, but you don't get the highlights or the accolades of quarterback, wide receiver, or linebacker. But at Webb City High School, being a lineman is not only appreciated, but has a lot of prestige behind it. Today, the Cardinals begin teaching the next generation of Webb City linemen at their Hog Pride Youth Camp. Over 150 campers are in attendance, performing various drills under the instruction of Webb City players and coaches, along with Tristan Colon, who participated in this camp as a child before playing in the NFL today.
You know, we've been fortunate to have a lot of Division I offensive and defensive linemen come through here, and we like to bring up that tradition to our kids and talk about, all the, the undersized kids that maybe didn't have a lot of expectations to them and how they've developed throughout their junior high and high school career, and they get a chance to go play in college and then a chance to play in the NFL maybe.
These kids, they be talking to me, I hear about a Chief joke every other joke here and there, but no, it's great. So, I love coming back, especially I live here. I live here with my fiance with 3 beautiful babies, so, love being home.
To local baseball, earlier this evening, the Joplin Outlaws broke their 4-game losing streak by taking down the Des Moines Peak Prospects in Game 1 of a doubleheader. So the second end of the doubleheader means a chance to start a 2-game winning streak in just one day. And the Outlaws end up winning both ends of the doubleheaders, making Des Moines look like the meek Prospects. They win both the first and second games by an identical score of 6-3. Brett Sarowinski from Pitt State helped out with a hit, a run, and an RBI in Game 2. Outlaws back within 3 games of first place in the Mink League's South Division. And over the weekend, the Royals won their first game in 11 tries. Snapping that losing streak was huge. But they still haven't won a game on the road in the month of June. Kansas City's last road win was on May 29th. Trying to change that today, though. Royals taking on the Tigers in Detroit. First inning, no score when Michael Garcia grounds one up the middle off Michael Lorenzen. Zach Short bobbles it, and that sends Nick Prado home. He tries to score, but the Tigers recover in time and they throw him out. That stayed at no score until the 6th inning. Matt Beattie lines one down the line off Lorenzen. Michael Garcia comes around to score easily. Just like that, the Royals have the lead, 1-0. Same score in the 8th inning. Aroldis Chapman in a jam with the bases loaded, but he gets Torkelson to ground out into a force out to end the inning. Chapman escapes the jam. To the 9th we go. Royals with a chance to win one on the road, still up 1-0. Last chance for the Tigers, tying run on third. And Scott Barlow, strikes out Zach McKinstry swinging. The Royals win it 1-0. And believe it or not, Cardinals winners as well tonight. St. Louis obliterates the Nationals 9-3. Jordan Montgomery was outstanding. He goes 7 innings, strikes out 6, and only allows 1 earned run. He picks up the win. Cardinals get back-to-back series victories, each of them coming on the road. They go for the sweep tomorrow afternoon. We're back with more news after this.
President Biden is addressing artificial intelligence in San Francisco while lawmakers work to regulate some of the risk without stifling the innovation that AI promises. But is a less than tech-savvy Congress up to the challenge? Fox's Madeline Rivera reports from Washington.
As Congress weighs how to tackle artificial intelligence, President Biden is trying to make some headway, urgently gathering tech experts in San Francisco to discuss the issue. The White House says it wants to foster opportunities within the industry while still managing the technology's risks. But lawmakers have not only struggled with regulating AI, but also with understanding it.
Congress doesn't know what the hell it's doing in this area. This is an institution. I think the median age in the Senate is about 142. This is not a tech-savvy group.
Industry leaders have flocked to Washington offering expertise. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, whose company created ChatGPT, is even calling for regulation. Still, some lawmakers are reluctant to act.
I'm not going to vote to regulate something until I understand A, the something, and B, the impacts of the regulation.
If Congress doesn't act quickly, some experts believe the industry could take things into its own hands, which could carry its own risks.
If we leave it all up to companies with commercial incentives, that they won't necessarily have the best interest of all humanity at their heart and what they care about.
The White House has been meeting several times a week in order to roll out some action in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is expected to reveal on Wednesday a framework to protect and harness AI's potential. In Washington, Mather Rivera, Fox News.
Coming up, if you plan on heading to Rome, we'll tell you about a new way you can experience a significant historical site. In Rome, there is a new way to see a very ancient attraction. Visitors can now take a stroll through a sacred site that is thousands of years old. Riley Carlson reports.
This brand new walkway takes visitors into Rome's Largo Argentina for the very first time. The ancient square was the site of 4 temples and believed to be the spot where Julius Caesar was stabbed to death. These walkways allow us to discover a new glimpse of Rome from below in one of the oldest areas of the city, says Rome's Counselor of Culture. Previous viewing of the sunken site could only be done at street level. Now tourists can get close to the frescoes, statues, and artifacts in 2 exhibition areas. Some of the stones on the site are nearly 2,000 years old. There's a great deal of historical relevance and a lot to understand about ancient architecture and the life of ancient Romans, says the city's superintendent of cultural heritage. Another piece of history now accessible in the Eternal City.
That's pretty cool. I want to give a quick shout out to one of my good friends here at KOAM. Here at KOAM, we get a chance to work with a lot of awesome people behind the scenes that helps this show go. And so today is the last day for production assistant Malik, who has become one of my really good friends. I just wanted to give him a quick shout out for those of you at home, just so you understand it's not just us that's on screen that gets this operation going, it's all of us together. So Malik, best of luck to you and your endeavors moving forward. But before you go, I'd like to leave you with a video of a pod of dolphins off the coast of Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. Be safe, and we'll do this all again tomorrow. See you then.